Alrighty guys, another day of practice. Come out here and I hit the jackpot today because Gary was out here and gave me a few tips and a few pointers, and Gary's been shooting forever and was a great shooter and coached a couple of Australian top shooters. So one thing that he did notice was that I was really hyperextending my elbow. So if you can see here, because of jiu-jitsu, my elbow bends backwards. So I really didn't even notice, but I was really overextending that elbow and my elbow's pointing straight up the bend. So what I'm doing now is just bringing it back to straight. So a little bit of a kink, not much, just enough to keep that all straight, because when I was like that, there's a better view for you. See, I'm all bent up. So just bringing it back to there makes everything more relaxed. And it's bringing the groups in together tighter already. And one thing you were saying too is that when you've got that hyperextended elbow and you're pushing on here, as soon as you take that pressure off, it naturally wants to kick this way, just because of that hyperextension, which makes total sense. So now that I've bent that elbow, keeping it relatively straight, as soon as I take the pressure off, it's exactly where it is. It doesn't get that hyperextending kick out. So that's one thing that Gary's fixed me up on already, which is great. And the groups went from like this straight down to like this, fixed me straight away. Another thing that I was doing was I was coming to anchor, and then I was trying to chase me thing around. Gary, trying to chase me anchor and bringing me head around. I'm coming around like this. So now what I'm doing, I'm coming up to full draw, keep me head still, and then bringing me head to my anchor, instead of coming up and then trying to find me anchor that way. And that's another thing that fixed me up heaps too. What was the third thing? There's three.
Hip.
Oh, and my hips. Bringing the hip back a little bit, just by squaring up my feet. So my feet were a little narrow together. He's just made me shoulder width apart now. And just being that shoulder width apart stopped me from swaying my hips back and forth. So let's shoot a couple of groups now at 30 meters, and I'll show you what's going on.
I'll swap sides with you.
Okay, 30 meters, just going to work on these few pointers and see if you notice a difference. So with this anchor point, so wide feet, shoulder width apart, not too wide, and my toes pointing straight ahead, not doing the duck feet, because I was real duck feeting it, having my toes pointing out. So it's made me a lot more stable and fixed my hip up. So then when I was coming to full draw, I was doing this. I was getting the anchor and then trying to find myself comfortable. So now what I'm doing, I get my head set, I get everything set, come up, come to full draw, and raise it into there, and I've still got a little wobble. And off it goes. So that's, he's given me a couple things to work on. That's a major thing. I used to always do that, just try and bring it up and not move my head into my anchor point, and for some reason I've let that creep into my repertoire. So now I'll try and get rid of that. Full draw, come up, way to go.
You better stick him in the middle, Jimmy.
Huh?
You better stick him in the middle. Credibility at stake here.
Okay, so that's how I'm doing it now. We'll shoot a couple more groups. I don't think that was the best group ever because I was talking while I was shooting, but I am shooting a hell of a lot better. And it makes a major difference, all these little tricks. And it's hard to tell what you're doing unless you know what you're doing. Hard to see what you're doing, I should say. But even with the bad shots and even with the talking, I've still managed to nearly hit all 10s. So what we'll do now, we'll go back and do another group and see if I can tighten it up with no talking.
Shit. The groups are okay, but yeah, it's like shit.
Okay, here's another group for you, so let's see if I can tighten it up now that I concentrate a little bit. So feet set first, everything's set. That last one was a bit dodgy, but I think the rest were alright. Yeah, have a look. So one thing about when you get coached too, you get a little bit of a dip. You got to work through the badness. So when you get coached sometimes too, let me explain something about being coached. When you get coached, you'll be at a level and then you'll get a whole heap of new stuff and you might dip down because you got to learn this new stuff, but you're plateauing here. Then you might dip down a little bit as you're learning, but then once you've learned all the new stuff, you'll peak up higher than your level that you were. And this is where everyone goes wrong, because everyone dips down and goes, oh, the coaching's crap, the coaching doesn't work, it's not, I'm going back to here. And then you end up just slipping back into this level and you'll never get higher. So you normally have to get coached, work it out, then scoot back up to the next level. So that's a little bit about sticking in there for the coaching. 2 bad shots. This is a bad one. Get rid of that one. But look at that. That's a lot tighter grip than what I've been shooting for the last week or 2. And that's still with me back tension. So I'm still shooting with me back tension and I'm grouping like I was with my thumb trigger. So I'm absolutely stoked about that. If I go back to my thumb, I might even get a bit better. But at the moment, it is looking great. So I'll stick with it, keep working on these tips. It'll probably take me a week or 2 to get them to sink in and really let them become natural again. But when they do, I'm sure I'll come straight back up, even higher than where I was. So thanks heaps, Gary. I know you're out there watching. So, oh, here he is here.
About time I got
here he is. Oh, he's made an appearance. So here's Gary.
No, Jimmy was a pleasure. I was watching one of the videos on YouTube last night and picked up a few little issues that I thought he needed correcting before they create a serious problem. Both Greg and Jimmy have got to a point where they've started to fall back off because they're sometimes over-analysing, overthinking things, and then you get distracted, so then your technique fails. The only other thing I suggested to Jimmy that we might look at as maybe shortening his draw just a little bit, not a lot. But the elbow's made a difference, definitely. And if it's made a difference with Jimi, it will make a bigger difference as time goes on. And that's all about being confident in what people are telling you. And if you see the change immediately, well, that helps you straight away. Because once you get to a level where Jimi and Greg are shooting, the only way is down. You get up to that point and you're going to fluctuate. You've got to expect good times and bad times. But you can't let it affect you, because the bad times just get more and more prominent. So that's one thing you guys have got to remember, particularly the top level guys that probably are already aware of that type of thing.
And I wasn't. That's such a big thing. When you're at such a high level, it only takes a little variance in the weather or something to drop you down a couple of shots. And then you peak out and you think, oh, I've lost it, I'm crap, I'm a hopeless shooter now. But that's not the case. It's just that day's variables got to you. So don't let those bad days bring you down. Just be prepared for the good days to come back.
And to Jimmy's credit, he took on board what I told him, which is a big thing in archery. Everybody's got an opinion, but you've just got to sort through what you think works for you. You've got to have confidence in what the particular people are telling you, and the credibility obviously there. Jimi took on board everything I suggested, and he's got the results from it. And that makes me happy as well, that I can make a difference for him.
And that's a little bit about coaching too. If you are getting coached by someone, you need to have blind faith. You need to just believe in everything they say and just believe them, because there's no point in getting coached by someone that you don't believe. So if they give you some sort of tip, you believe it. Whether you think it's right or not, you believe it because your coach says it. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, and a lot of people can't get coached because of that. They think, oh, that's not right, I'm not going to believe that. But if he's not your coach for no reason. So if you do have a coach, make sure you trust him and believe him.
When your coach does throw something at you, he might say, try this. You don't like it, you want to try this. So a good coach should compromise and meet somewhere in the middle, because at the end of the day, the archer's the one that's got to be comfortable. There's not a lot of black and white parts in a technique. There are some quite black and white parts, but a lot of the times in the technique you have to vary it for a person's physical makeup, ability, disability, whatever. But somewhere you've got to have a common ground where the archer is happy with what the coach is telling them. That's the most important thing when you're being coached.
And to have that faith. Make sure you believe in your coach, because if you don't believe in your coach, find another one. Alright guys, so that's today down. Another great day of shooting. Absolutely stoked. I'm absolutely pumped to come out and keep practicing this new stuff. So mate, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the other buttons for us, and I'll see you soon for another video.